everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video I'm going to be ranking my Colourpop palettes. This is something that I thought I might start as a series on my channel because there are quite a few brands that I do have multiple eyeshadow palettes from, so I thought possibly once a month or once every couple of months I will go through and rank all the eyeshadow palettes that I have from a certain brand. The reason why I picked Colourpop as my first brand is because I want to incorporate it in a giveaway, so be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video to find out the details of that. I do only have 6 eyeshadow palettes from Colourpop, quite a few of which are more recent purchases, but I thought it would be still quite fun to go through and rank all of those 6 palettes. The brand that I probably have the most from is Juvia's Place, so that video is definitely going to be slightly longer than this one, but why don't we get started on ranking my palettes. So I will start first of all with the palette that I ranked at number 6, and that is the Boudoir Noir palette. This was, I believe, part of their holiday collection from last year, and this is one of their 12 pan palettes, which I'm hoping isn't reflecting too much on the camera. So this is a really pretty palette with a few different neutrals, a couple of pops of gold, and then also this really nice green shade over here as well. This is the second of their 12 pan palettes that I had tried, and I didn't love it as much as the first one, which will obviously feature later in this video. I just didn't feel like the shadows performed as well. This one does also come with a pressed glitter here in the shade Bedtime Story, and I am not a fan of pressed glitters in palettes. I really wish that Colourpop would stop including them. This one is an okay pressed glitter, but definitely not one of the best that I've tried. One of my favourite pressed glitter formulas that I've tried was actually in a Tarte eyeshadow palette that I got, which did surprise me because they're not known for their pressed glitters, whereas Colourpop are, but I do prefer the formula in the Tarte palette. So I don't like the pressed glitter shades in here, and I feel like the rest of the shades don't perform as well as I'm used to with Colourpop. The other shimmer shades in here, which are Good Night, Body Language, Sleep In, Nap, and then this Vibin is one of those sequin shades, which is a matte with glitter particles in it. I just don't feel like they perform as well. They are quite creamy, but a few of them do take a bit of building up, and I noticed that I did get quite a bit of fallout from these as well. So this is a palette that I do kind of regret picking up. I don't think I paid full price for it, but I do kind of regret picking up because I don't feel like it adds anything unique to my collection. I do have palettes with these gold neutrals in and probably this green shade as well. If I'm honest, it was the kind of green that did draw me in because I've definitely been into a lot of green shades as of late. So yeah, this one just didn't perform as well as I was hoping it would do, and it didn't really add anything to my collection, so this one is number 6. In at number 5 we have the Going Coconuts palette. This is one of their 9 pan monochromatic palettes and is an absolutely gorgeous colour story. I did have quite high hopes for this palette because it is a gorgeous neutral palette with shades that I would reach for on a daily basis, but again I just didn't feel like the formula performed as well as other Colourpop palettes that I'd tried. This is only the second 9 pan palette that I'd purchased from Colourpop. The first one was the Ooh La La palette, which was their pink palette, and I believe that was only their second or third of the 9 pan palettes when they very first started releasing them, and I wasn't impressed with that palette formula at all. So I don't have the best track record with the ones in the plastic packaging. For me, every single shimmer in here has a lot of fallout, and there's no way I can ever avoid it. Even if I go in with a finger, with a brush, I just always seem to end up with a lot of fallout. So this is a palette that I always feel like I need to go and do my eye makeup before my face makeup, which isn't the way I usually do my makeup. So it has that going against it. And the mattes in here are nice enough. None of them are patchy, they do blend okay, but nothing in here kind of blows my socks off. And I know that is quite hard to do with a neutral palette, especially when I have so many neutral palettes in my collection. I think I just had such high hopes for this one because even though I was disappointed by the first 9 pan palette that I tried, so many of them had come out since and I'd seen them getting more and more positive reviews. I thought by the time I'd waited and purchased this that it might have worked better for me, but I just didn't feel like it did, which is such a shame because colour scheme wise this could be a palette that I reach for on a daily basis, but I always tend to overlook this one because it's a bit more of a chore to use. Then at number 4 we have the At Forest Sight palette, which is the one in collaboration with Raw Beauty Christie. This one is definitely a more dark and deeper palette than I normally go to, and that is the reason why I did pick this one up, because I feel like this definitely does add something to my collection. This is a £12 palette, as you can see, but this one doesn't have a mirror, but that does not bother me at all. I always apply my makeup in a mirror that I have on my wardrobe. I never use mirrors in palettes, so I am more than happy when palettes don't have mirrors in them because I don't use them anyway, and they do tend to be a couple of dollars cheaper. I'm not too sure if that was the case with this one, with it being a collaboration. I do think this is such a gorgeous palette. The bottom row of this palette I do find quite intimidating, if I'm honest, because I don't tend to overly reach for those kind of grungy tones, but I feel like with the rest of the palette it all just ties in really nicely. We do have this top row of gorgeous matte shades, and I do like every single one of these shades, and then the middle row has a couple of deeper toned ones here, which I don't think I'm probably going to reach for an awful lot. And then we have these two shimmers here in Evergreen and West Coast. These two shimmers are both absolutely gorgeous, and for me, I don't very often go in with an all matte look, so obviously that's why I've had to kind of rank this palette lower, because even though it is absolutely gorgeous and it is more unique to my collection, because I do go into every look with a shimmer, this does limit me in that I only have these two shimmers here, so I have to use one or the other in every single look that I create. Otherwise I'm reaching into another palette for a different shimmer, so that's why I've not ranked this one any higher. Formula wise, this is a fantastic formula. The mattes perform beautifully, they blend so easily. They are those kind of mattes that blend themselves, if that makes sense. Even with the darker shades, I didn't really notice any patchiness or anything like that. Obviously, with this being one of my newer palettes, I've not used it tons of times, but I think I have used most of the shades in this palette. I think the only one I've not used is this blue here, PNW. But I think I have used every other shade in here and they do all perform really well. I do have some wrinkles on the outer corner of my eye, and darker shades do tend to get built up in there, and these did initially, but I did not have any problem buffing them out at all. I've had more problems with lighter shades, to be honest, so I was really impressed with that aspect. I won't be reaching for this bottom row very much, but it's nice to know that if I do want a darker shade, that these ones do blend really nicely. I think my favourite shade in this palette is definitely the shimmer Evergreen, because it is a kind of duochrome shift. It does have a kind of taupey undertone to it with shifts of purpley, pink and green to it, and it is just such a pretty shade. And for matte wise, I love the shade Chanterelle. This is a really pretty kind of muted mustard yellow, and that is something that is definitely very different in my collection. But overall, I think Christy did a great job with this palette, and it's just my personal preference that I like a bit more shimmer in a palette, that I didn't rank it higher, but it is something that is definitely unique in my collection. Obviously, the artwork on the packaging itself is just absolutely gorgeous, and again, that makes it kind of a bit more unique. In at number 3, we have the You Had Me at Hello palette, and this was my very first Colourpop palette that I ever purchased. This one does come with a mirror, which I do still have the plastic packaging on, because I just don't use mirrors in palettes. Because this is an older palette, I don't mind folding it back, but I know that goes through a lot of people, so apologies, but it's just easy to hold it this way. So this is a really gorgeous neutral warm toned palette. It is perfect for smoky eyes, it's perfect for everyday looks. It has a good ratio of shimmers to mattes for my personal preference, and it does everything I kind of need on a daily basis. I do actually have this palette, or one shade from this palette, in my project pan for this year. This shade here, which is called Winning Ticket, which I've put a little dot next to, so I am trying to see if I can hit pan in this by the end of 2021, because this is definitely a shade I reach for quite a lot, and it does already have a bit of a dip in it. More often than not, when I go into this palette, it is that one that I put in my crease, but I say we do have a fair mix. We've got your deeper browns here, we've got the lighter shimmers over here. For me, when I'm pulling into a palette, back when I was wearing eyeshadow on a daily basis to go for work, I am going for quite a simple look. I tend to go in with this one for the crease, would go in this one in the outer corner, and then would go with one of them two, or maybe this one all over the lid, and that was me done. I do actually miss applying eyeshadow on a daily basis. I know I could still apply it, but I feel like my colleagues might get a bit of a shock after seeing me on Zoom for a year with nothing but kind of mascara and my eyebrows on, and that's about it, to see me with eyeshadow all over again. So I maybe should have started doing that at the beginning of working from home, so it would have just carried on, but I did get lazy, if I was honest. But just even holding this palette does make me kind of yearn for wearing eyeshadow on a daily basis again, because I just love reaching for this palette, and it is definitely one that is a staple in my collection. If I'm honest, these top 3 palettes, it was really hard to make a decision because this one does have that soft spot in my heart because it was my first Colourpop palette, but I do like the other 2 more, obviously, so that's why this one is in at number 3. In at number 2, we have the Child palette, and this one was the Star Wars Mandalorian collaboration. And again, absolutely gorgeous packaging. This is officially the cutest palette in my collection. And this is one of their £9 palettes, which does come with a mirror. And this is an absolutely gorgeous green colour story. This palette was kind of released at the perfect time because I just started to get into green shadows. I think the first couple of palettes I had were just the odd green shades in different palettes, and then I think I got the e.l.f. Bite Size Jalapeno, which is brighter greens, but it just put me out my comfort zone and really got me liking green on my eyes. But I was actually on the lookout for more muted greens that I could wear on a daily basis, and then this palette was released and kind of answered all my prayers. This to me is just kind of my perfect green palette because it is something that I feel I would happily wear on a daily basis. I don't mind wearing a bold eye look when filming YouTube videos, but when it comes to kind of my real life, I'm always really self-conscious. On a night out, I might go a bit bolder, but I'm on a night out and usually there's alcohol involved, so obviously my inhibitions kind of disappear throughout the course of the night, so I don't mind as much then. But just daily life, seeing people I know that sounds crazy, I do tend to keep it as quite neutral because I just feel so self-conscious in bright shadows. And because I was loving reaching for greens, that's why I loved the idea of this palette, because I knew I could have green on my eyes but not feel self-conscious because it is still quite muted. This shade in the middle, Baby Face, here is an absolutely gorgeous shade in the crease. Then I do love pairing it with this Sipping Soup over the top. I don't think there's a shade in this palette that I don't love. It has everything that I'm looking for in a palette. It has a couple of shades here that I can happily use in the crease, and then darker shades here I can use in my outer corner, and then every single one of these shimmers is gorgeous. I do like to go from Sipping Soup on the kind of inner half of my lid into Right Hand Mando and the outer half, and I think that just is an absolutely gorgeous look. When you put Right Hand Mando over this Float Your Crib, it does just make that shade pop even more, and I do just absolutely love this palette. Going back to kind of feeling self-conscious, I wish I could feel confident enough to wear green eyeshadow every single day, but this is a palette where I could happily reach for it kind of a couple of times a week, but more often than not I do wear more neutral tones, so that's why when I want to wear something green I just have this one to reach for. And even though it is a slightly more colourful palette, I don't have to think hard about what I'm going to use with this palette. Formula wise, I feel like the 9-pan cardboard palettes perform so much better than the plastic ones. I don't have an issue with any one of these shades in here. I don't get hardly any fallout, if any, from the shimmers in here. I think the one here, the Force, is slightly more chunky, so I get a little bit of fallout from that, but hardly anything. And then I don't get any issues with the mattes and the darker shades. Again, they don't really have any issues with them getting into my creases. They do blend out really easily and they do perform really well, and it's another palette that kind of blends itself. So I'm so glad that I picked this one up, and again, just the packaging is just the cutest thing, so it's definitely the cutest palette in my collection. And then finally, in at number 1, we of course had to go with a neutral palette. This is the That's Taupe palette, and again is a 9-pan in cardboard packaging, so this is definitely my preferred formula from Colourpop. This is the perfect everyday eyeshadow palette. This is one that I could happily wear 7 days a week and not get bored of. I do have the Natasha Denona Glam palette, which is a very similar colour story, and to be honest I did pick them up at the same time. I do not regret picking this one up at all, because this one is perfect when maybe I'm a little bit shorter for time, because the Natasha Denona Glam palette, even though it's got so many different looks I can create in there, I do always have to think because there's that many looks I can create. Whereas with this one, if I'm in a bit of a pinch for time, I can pick this up and create a look really quickly. And this is another palette where I don't think there's a single shade in here that I don't love. This is the palette that I do actually have on my eyes today. I have Pebble Beach in the crease, I have Bedrock in my outer corner, and then I have Cold Blooded on the outer half and Snake Eyes on the inner half of my lid. And I didn't realise until this and the Natasha Denona palette were released how much I love cool tone shadows. I did have the odd one kind of dotted in and out of my collection, and I did reach for them quite frequently. but more often than not I was going for neutral tone browns rather than cool tone browns. But yeah, I just absolutely love this. Again, formula, it performs very similar to the Child palette. The mattes blend beautifully. I don't have any issues with this dark shade here. The shimmers don't have hardly any fallout, if at all. I think perhaps this shade Slated here has a little bit of fallout, but again, not that much, and it's not that hard to brush that away. This is actually a palette that I have created an all matte look in a couple of times, which, as I said earlier, I'm all about shimmers, so that isn't me. So for me to even want to reach for a palette to do an all matte look definitely means that I love the palette. This is another package that does have really cool packaging on with the snake skin, and again, no mirror, which I'm more than happy about, and it is nice and compact as well. So yeah, this is my #1 Colourpop palette in my collection. Technically, I do own one more Colourpop palette, and that is the newest release, which is the Limoncello palette, but that one is still working its way to me in the post. So I will be intrigued once I've used that one where I would consider putting it in the ranking. When I actually made that order for the Limoncello palette, I did get a little pop-up afterwards to say that I had a refer a friend link for 15% off. So I've started to put that in my description box, so if anyone is looking to make an order from Colourpop, I do have that 15% off code. I don't think I get any kickback or anything from it. I think it is just for refer a friend for them to get 15% off. If I do get any kickback and you use it, thank you in advance, but I just thought, seeing as I'm talking about Colourpop, it makes sense to mention it. I think it is the top referral link in my description box. That is all my Colourpop palettes ranked. Now to get into the details of the giveaway. I did want to do this giveaway slightly differently than I normally do. What I tend to do for most of my giveaways is have a box of goodies, which I will run through and show you what is available. But for this giveaway, I thought I would do it slightly differently. And what the prize is for this one, it is a Colourpop palette of your choice. I had a look on the Colourpop website, and it looks like they do ship to a lot of different countries internationally. So what I thought might be quite fun to do is, seeing as I'm talking about Colourpop palettes, and there might be a palette that you've possibly had your eye on that you've not quite purchased yet, or there might be something that I've reviewed today that you would be interested in possibly giving a try. So I thought I would turn it into a giveaway. I was going to hold off till I got to 1,000 subscribers to do my next giveaway, because I do have a bundle of goodies in a box ready for that. But when I wanted to start doing the ranking palettes as a series, I thought this would be a good way to kick the series off. So obviously the rules for this giveaway are going to be slightly different than usual. I do ask, of course, that you are a subscriber to my channel. Just to mention, because I have had to say it in the past, if you have been a previous subscriber to just enter a giveaway and then have unsubscribed, you are disqualified from this giveaway and any future giveaways on my channel. It has happened in the past, so I feel like I have to mention it. I ask that you are over the age of 18, if not that you do have the permission of a parent or guardian to give your address to basically a stranger on the internet. You must make sure that Colourpop deliver to your country, because I will actually be sending this prize directly from Colourpop. Rather than me ordering your palette and then sending it on to you, it makes sense for me to just order it direct from Colourpop to your home address. So please do double check to make sure that Colourpop deliver to your country. Just to note that I will be covering the cost of shipping on the Colourpop website, and I believe they do correctly calculate the cost of customs and things up front, so I will be paying all of that on checkout. But should the parcel arrive at your door and there are any further customs charges that are out of my control, I will not be responsible for them. So to enter this giveaway, it is pretty simple. You just need to give this video a thumbs up and then drop me a comment down below of the eyeshadow palette you would like if you were to win this giveaway. As with all my giveaways, this will be open for 1 month, so she'll be closing, I think it's around the 29th of April. Once the giveaway closes, I will use some form of random generator to pick a comment, and then I will just reply to your comment to let you know you've won. Because I know that people don't always get notifications from YouTube, it might be an idea to possibly put an Instagram handle there as well, because if I don't hear from you straight away on the comment, I will give it a couple of days, and then if there's an Instagram there, I will try and send you a DM. If I don't hear back from the winner in about 4 days after the giveaway closes, I will put the names back into another generator and pick another winner. So I think that covers everything for the rules of the giveaway. Like I say, it is slightly different than how I do them usually, but I will have everything confirmed in the description box below. I just thought it would be really fun for you to be able to pick your own prize. I've entered a few giveaways myself like that in the past, and it is really fun picking something, especially an eyeshadow palette. So just in case it wasn't 100% clear, it is just for an eyeshadow palette. It's not for anything else on the Colourpop website. I just want to give someone an eyeshadow palette that they want. But other than that, that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks.